Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gen X Dad and his Gen Z Teens podcast. Today, I'd like to dip my toe into the waters of education and talk about my theories on education, how I have raised my teenagers, and just maybe spark a little bit of debate or thought on that. And so, specifically, I'm going to get to public school versus private school. And to me, the part of the conversation that tends to get glossed over the most is what I'll cover. But one thing I have learned, they say don't talk about politics or religion with people, but I have also found that education is a very touchy subject with people. And to some degree, I can completely understand it because it's our children. And when someone maybe disagrees with our educational philosophy with them, you can't help but take it a bit personally because we're clearly trying to do the best for our kids. And so I'll get to some of the disclosures here in a second. But overall, I have some very different views on education. I think compared to some of the more mainstream thought, and I'll talk a bit about that. Because I think when people debate education, what they often focus on are buildings, class sizes, rankings, and price tags, but not enough, in my opinion, on responsibility. And so starting off, full transparency right up front. I went to a private Catholic school in rural Louisiana, a very small town there. But I did manage to go to a service academy, which some might argue is relatively elite and certainly well beyond my very small rural high school setting. My kids, however, have gone to public school. And I will say right up front, and that decision has saved me a ton of money. And I don't think that they have lost anything along the way, particularly in a state that we live in that really isn't highly ranked for education. And so we have been very, very happy. But it wasn't just about finances. We were able at any point to pull our kids from public school or if we felt that things weren't going well, and put them into a private school. But thankfully, we have not had to make that decision. We've had a really really good experience. And so, like I said, it wasn't just about finances. It was also about understanding what schools are supposed to do, in my opinion, and what parents can't outsource. So first off, start with private schools. They certainly get marketed as the gold standard. They'll push advertising about smaller classes, more structure, and more oversight. And for some families, that's absolutely the right choice. I am not anti-private school at all. It was always an option for us. But I do think we've perhaps created a dangerous assumption that paying more automatically equals better outcomes. It doesn't. What it really buys is an environment. And environments only work if the foundation at home is solid. Public school, on the other hand, can be a bit messy. It's diverse, imperfect, and sometimes frustrating. There are times where not every teacher is great. However, I will say we have been dramatically happy overall with the teachers that our teens have had, particularly in high school. However, not every system works the way it should. In many ways, the public school is a preview of real life, and I thought that was important for my boys to experience that. You're exposed to different attitudes, different work ethics, different levels of accountability, and that can be a strength if it's supported properly at home. One thing I also learned pretty early as a parent is this. Schools educate, but families set the standard. It's not the school's job to raise your kids. It's not their job to instill discipline, motivation, or character. They can reinforce those things, but they can't replace them. I didn't expect the school to track everything for me. I checked grades, I asked questions, I paid attention to patterns, and not just report cards. Not because I didn't trust my kids, but because accountability matters. And when no one is paying attention, it's easy to drift. And drifting doesn't usually look like failure. It looks like comfort. Comfort is often where potential quietly disappears. There's also this idea that private schools protect kids from distraction and negative influence. Sometimes, maybe. But the truth is, no environment is distraction-free. And eventually, your kids are going to have to navigate the real world, where no one curates the experience for them. Public school can teach that early, but only if parents stay engaged and don't confuse exposure with abandonment. Another hard truth, you can't buy work ethic. You can't outsource responsibility. You can't hand over discipline and expect it to stick. I believe the most successful people didn't necessarily come from the best schools. They came from homes where effort was expected, excuses weren't rewarded, and progress was monitored. I can personally tell you that I had particularly my mom, pushed me very hard, and that was a key part of my success in going, from this very rural setting into a service academy and meeting all the requirements they had there. However, as a parent, that doesn't mean hovering. It means caring enough to be uncomfortable, though. Caring enough to check in. Caring enough to push when it would be easier to just let things slide. Schools provide opportunity. What's done with that opportunity depends largely on what happens after the bell rings. I also want to acknowledge something important. Not every family has the same time, resources, or flexibility. Public schools matter because they are a safety net. They provide access. But even within that system, the difference maker is often one adult who notices, encourages, or holds the line consistently. One voice saying, "You can do better, and I expect you to do better." So when people ask me whether public or private school is better, my answer is usually this. Home environment matters more than the school name. Choose the school that fits your situation, but don't assume the choice alone does the work for you. For the parents listening, especially who were raised with a lot of independence, this is a reminder. Involvement isn't weakness. Monitoring isn't mistrust. Pushing your kids isn't pressure. It's preparation. And for the kids and young adults who might be listening, no system is perfect. Use what's available to you. Take responsibility early. Don't wait for someone else to care more about your future than you do. Education works best when it's a partnership, not a handoff. Public or private, expensive or free, the results almost always come down to effort, expectations, and consistency. That's mostly my take. There are more details I would love to get into if you're interested. Leave me a comment, drop a question. My system is not perfect, nor is it universal, but it's my idea of just real-world experience from a Gen X dad trying to do it intentionally and hopefully getting a few things right along the way. I want to thank you for listening. I want to say that I appreciate you. And that'll be it for this week. Until next time, this has been the Gen X Dad and his Gen Z teens.